Blog Talk Radio.
3, 2, 1. Masters of the Air is Apple TV Plus's first blockbuster miniseries of 2024. And just a few hours after this morning's debut, blockbuster praise is pouring in from critics and viewers alike. Writer and co-executive producer John Orloff joins me next in an internet radio exclusive from Boston. Our second half hour focuses on Nomad Slow, a very different TV experience. And overseer Jason Rodi will tell you why from Montreal. So, John, what's next for you now that Masters of the Air has finally made the screen?
I'm still figuring that out. I'm working on some exciting things that I can't quite talk about yet, but it's been such a long and exhaustive journey for me in particular. I'm sort of the only guy who's been working on this thing for 10 years. And, I'm kind of taking a pause and a breath as I figure out what the next thing exactly is in my life. Because when I commit to something, my darling wife calls me the method writer. And so when I commit to something, for better or worse, I really commit. So I got to just find that right thing to dig in with.
The program is Masters of the Air, and the first two episodes you can catch right now on Apple TV Plus, available on smart TV sets, devices, including Apple TV's own set-top box, as well as multi-channel bundles. If you're a fan of Sunday Morning on CBS, and I am, you know that before the closing credits, there is a special minute or two where you go to a very unique environment somewhere in the world, and you just be with it. That's right, just be with it. Well, believe it or not, there is a roaming service where you can be with nature, be with all sorts of environments from all over the world. It's called Nomad Slow. And joining us live to talk about it right now with another Interradio exclusive is the creator and organizer of the service from Montreal, Canada, Jason Rodi. Jason, good to have you with us.
Oh, it's so good to be here. Thank you.
Well, Sunday Morning and Inspiration, those few minutes of being with nature, whether it was introduced by Charles Carroll to Charles Gosgood, who passed away, of course, earlier this week, and more recently Jane Pauley, was that an inspiration to do this service?
It was not directly, but you can say all these things are an influence of sorts. Even I think of films like Baraka or Koyaanisqatsi, very impressionistic narrative films showing us amazing imagery from all over the world. To me, this felt like ultimate cinema back in the day when I first saw those films. And I do feel that we're creating something here with Nomad Slow TV that is truly a different kind of television, mostly because you have it on when you're not really watching TV. It's instead of turning off the tube, you basically turn it to Nomad Slow TV. And I see it personally as the creator as a kind of window to heaven on earth, this idealized perspective of our world, creating a state of mind in the audience that instead of grabbing at your attention like pretty much every other piece of media out there does, this really creates a different kind of state of mind that some would call soft fascination, the kind, as you were describing so well, that you get out in nature when you're just managing to just be.
Jason, how did you come up with the idea of, by the way, first of all, what does Nomad Slow, or Nomad, the Nomad and Nomad Slow stand for?
Well, Nomad, I created another company over 20 years ago called Moment Factory. And this company ended up doing all kinds of video environments, creating the backdrops to concerts and that sort of thing. So I was always creating kind of atmospheres through video and lighting. Through that line of my life, I developed Nomad Slow TV specifically, this kind of content. But when I left Moment Factory, I thought Moment Factory was so good to me, just even as a name. It really created something that went beyond me. So I thought, what is the word that would bring me the best things in my life? For whatever reason, I thought of Nomad as that, for the travel aspect of it, but also because I felt like it was kind of the opposite of a factory. It was going to allow me to be free in my life if I became nomad. So it's a very personal reason, really, and it's really just to manifest the best life I can for myself.
So how long did it come up? Had you come up with? How did you come up with the title of this service, Nomad? Of this idea, the concept of Nomad Slow.
Yeah.
Did you get a lot of naysayers? People said, "Nope, this is not going to work. People are not going to stand this. You can't get them to sit for this kind of programming beyond maybe a minute or two. You got to be crazy, et cetera, that kind of talk."
Yeah. Well, I thought of creating a TV station is the way I saw it back in the 90s when I was in film school at NYU. And I thought, do I really want to become another director? I don't want to ask permission for anybody to make my content, essentially, to make my films. So I thought of this TV station as a movie that never ends, that I can just keep adding to it, and that the audience would be there too. So you could say the kind of inception of the idea was, well, back in the late 90s as the internet was becoming a reality really for content in general. And then through the years, as I mentioned earlier, I ended up making a lot of content that was not necessarily narrative content. It was more to create an ambiance, an atmosphere. And so I had this idea in my mind. I started even in 2014 to stream 24 hours a day and to find a way for me to do that with ease, for it to not be like a stressful thing, to be able to have with a minimal team a TV station of my own. Now, obviously, the technology and our means have evolved greatly since 2014. But this idea evolved into slow TV. This was, I felt, what would fit this vision I had of, I guess, some 30 years ago soon. And it's really in 2020, in April of 2020, that I finally went live with it. And so that turned out to be just about when the pandemic was starting. So my timing was so serendipitous, really, because I came on the scene with a kind of content that was creating, like, people couldn't go outside, and after a while of just like channel surfing and watching the next thing, you want to be able to just lean back essentially and let go and almost meditate. How meditation became so big during the pandemic? My content and my concept really had a purpose in people's lives right away. And I saw it in my own life, how it affected the way I work, for example. Like, I'm a screen addict. I have, right now, I'm looking at 4 screens around me. All of them are on. And if I can also be listening to a podcast at the same time as I'm listening to music and answering emails, then I'll do that, and you can call it a sickness if you want. But I found Nomad Slow TV to be the remedy for that sickness, because it allows me to focus. It allows me to give attention where I need to give it. It's not grabbing at me. It's soothing my mind. So it's not something you watch actively. Obviously, as I'm talking to you now, I'm staring at the screen, and I'm being kind of hypnotized by the images. But that's exactly the idea, is that my flow is improved by it instead of disturbed by it.
When people get into their seats or their couches or sofas to watch your service, what are the images that they see? Give us some image examples.
Well, first of all, they don't really sit down to watch Nomad Slow TV. As I said, it's like screensaver TV. So you'll basically, if you sit down to watch, you're turning Nomad Slow TV off and going on to your favorite streaming service of the moment. But if you get up in the morning and you turn Nomad Slow TV on, you leave it on for the rest of your day, you're going to be traveling through your subconscious mind throughout the whole day, visiting different parts of the world that are presented in a timeless fashion, so that it's not there telling you, oh, look at this event that happened recently, or look at me now as I'm telling you this exciting story that you're missing. Quite the opposite. The camera will always be traveling. There'll always be movement throughout the landscape, but it's done in a real impressionistic manner. And so the state of mind that I get in when I'm filming a movie for Nomad Slow TV, if I'm walking through a landscape, I'm walking very slowly. I'm in a real meditative state because often I'm also recording sound, so I'm trying to make as little noise as possible as I'm moving through. And some of my shots will last over 20 minutes sometimes. So this state of mind that I get in, almost like a monk walking slowly through a field, if you will, create an image. So the state of mind that I get in naturally as I film these moments is essentially the state of mind that the audience gets into through these natural landscapes. Sometimes I'll be filming in a city. Some of my favorite images from this past year are drone shots I shot over Rome while the sun was coming up, and it's as if I was flying through a field of antennas that were there shining and pointing at each other over Rome. So poetic, Simon. And so one of these shots lasts over 20 minutes, and it's always changing. And then I find some smoke leaving a chimney, and then we go through that smoke, and we find the sun rising just behind it. It's a state of mind. That's what you'll end up getting from Nomad Slow TV.
You're hearing Jason Rodi. He is the creator, originator, and organizer of the service known as Nomad Slow, appearing on some smart TV sets and smart TV devices. He joins us live from Montreal, Canada this half hour right here exclusively on Tomorrow Will Be Televised. Jason, first of all, before we get into how you do this footage, which smart TV sets and devices are currently playing Nomad Slow? I understand Roku is. I believe Apple TV is. Anybody else?
Yes, we also were... Well, on pretty much all of them. We're trying to be on all of them. I know LG is set to come on in a month or two, and Samsung the same. But otherwise, anywhere you get your streaming services like Netflix, Disney, or any of them, you should be able to find Nomad Slow TV. Yeah, or of course on our website, nomadslow.tv. We also provide all the content in a VOD fashion there, same way you can find it on any streaming service. We have a screensaver that you can also get off of the website. This is interesting because that's essentially I was thinking, you don't even go to this content. Like if you just want it to come on, this type of thing, like a screensaver does. So, 3 years ago when we started the project, it's one of the first things we developed, which is a screensaver that launches our live stream automatically onto your screen whenever, you set it to launch. So it's, and I just love it in that form actually, because it's when I stand back, it's when I stop at the computer for a couple of minutes that then these images will come on. And it's usually when my mind has started kind of thinking about something or going somewhere else, and that'll just help focus me once again into the present moment. A lot of it is about that, it's about being in the present. And I was looking at a lot of the other episodes that you've been doing. I love that I get to be on this show, because I was having those same thoughts that you brought up near the beginning. I thought, this is so different. Do I have a place in this industry? Can I go and compete against everything else that's out there, all the magnitude of content that's released daily? And so I went to MIPCOM, a couple of years ago. I started speaking to people, getting more involved in the industry, getting to know the industry better. And I saw very quickly that no one was doing what I was doing, especially not with kind of cinematic approach or an artistic approach or even a personal approach than I might have to it. So that gave me a lot of confidence to go forth and really push it. And we've produced hundreds of hours all in-house over the past 3 years since. And now as we're coming onto the market, onto all these platforms, Fire TV, Roku, as you mentioned, and the likes, well, I'm getting feedback from the public. I'm getting emails. I'm getting people that know me, that can reach me directly, that are telling me it's making a real difference in their lives. It's a real joy, because who wants to just add to the pile of stuff that's out there and that's grabbing at our attention all day long? It felt great, to bring Nomad Slow TV to the market, and we're really just getting started, frankly.
Mm-hmm. Where have your nomadic travels taken you to shoot footage for the channel? And also, have you gotten thoughts from other people who've seen the service saying, I'd like to shoot footage for you. I'd like to, hey, here's this place I've been that I would like to see represented on your network. And I'm a good producer. Let me join you in your quest.
Yeah, well, that's a really great way to frame those two questions, actually, because they do answer each other to me. At the beginning, I involved some producer friends of mine, people that also make films and videos that I knew had great content of this sort. I mentioned Moment Factory, so just through that company, I got to know, a long time ago, great video artists that have fitting content for this. But quickly, as I compiled it, every time it would go to something that I didn't make myself, there was a kind of clash there. So I felt, it only lasted a couple of months before I decided only to have our own productions in the channel, really to develop the language before opening it up. That was in the middle of the pandemic back in 2020. So I was already just working with some of the content that I'd been developing the years prior, and I've done extensive travel throughout my life. I've climbed the 7 summits. I've skied to the North and South Poles, and I've made films throughout all of those journeys. So I had a kind of base catalog to work from. And then from there, as travel slowly opened up with the pandemic, it was wonderful because I got to at first explore my city of Montreal through this kind of lens, this language. Then I was able to explore beyond that into Quebec. And until just nearly a couple of years ago now, my first real trip that went beyond Canada was to Bora Bora. And then ever since then, it's been, we've been all over Japan, all through Europe. Next, we're heading to Africa this year. So until I've kind of created a catalog that spans the planet the way I know how, I'm holding back on accepting submissions. But as has happened before in my life, it was the same thing when I started momentfactory.com in like the year 2000. I was putting one movie of my own every month with no explanation. And it took a couple of months back in the day before I started receiving submissions from other video artists that were recognizing themselves in what I was making, because it had no category. It wasn't short films. It wasn't narrative. It was, as I mentioned, kind of ambiance or moments, as we used to call them. So that's what's happening right now with Nomad Slow TV, is that we're getting the recognition, the audience is building, and so I'm getting those kinds of emails from people going, Jason, I'm heading out on this trip, and I think just from seeing what you're doing on Nomad Slow TV, I believe I could do something that's really in that vein, really with that language, and it's not just beauty shots. So those artists are getting it, and now I'm starting to receive the kind of content that is a real fit for it. So it's been a process, frankly, and it's really the beginning, as I said earlier.
Well, the name of the service is called Nomad Slow. It is currently running on Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV. Soon will be, as you heard earlier, on LG, Samsung, other smart TV sets, device, and multi-channel bundles. So definitely check it out. It's a very unique experience. And you want more details about the service online, here's where you go, www.nomadslow.tv. That's www.nomad, N-O-M-A-D, slow, S-O-W.tv. Jason Rodi, the creator, originator, organizer of Nomad Slow, thank you again for joining us. Congratulations on how your service is going, and hopefully many, many more achievements in your nomadic travels in times to come. And it's been a pleasure having you on.
Thank you kindly. Pleasure is all mine.
You're welcome. Take care. Have a super weekend and safe journeys.
Ciao now.
Jason Rodi joining us live from Montreal, Canada. By the way, as I was hearing Jason, it reminded me that years ago I saw with my girlfriend at the time a wonderful movie called Russian Ark. It's an incredible movie, which is all done in one camera shot. for over an hour, taking place in and out of the grounds of the St. Petersburg Museum in Russia. It's an extraordinary film. If you ever get a chance to see it, do. It reminds me of what Jason's out to do with Nomad Slope. So Will Be Televised. I'm Simon Applebaum in New York. Thank you for listening. Have a fantastic weekend. Remember, let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with you. Until the next time, stay well and stay tuned.